Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave. Today we start with we and the self relationship. My book, it is page number 84. And I think in the new edition, it is page number 90. I think slight difference in the heading paragraph, which we are going to begin from. To an ordinary man, here basically, in these notes, what Gurudev has spoken about is the philosophy of Vedanta and other schools of thought. And its relevance, why is it required? So we shall just read this also. To an ordinary man, his body is himself. His identification with the body is deep and strong. He lives for the body, strives for the body, and knows no other mission in life than seeking sensuous enjoyment. For one who exists in such a low level of existence, the only relationship with the absolute must be one of separativeness and slavery. Now, here, very strongly, Gurudev has said that to think of yourself as only the body and you strive for the body, your enjoyment in life comes from only at the physical level, only from sensuous enjoyments. When we say sensuous, we are talking about experiences that arise out of the senses. The five senses. What pleases the eye, what pleases the ears, what pleases the tongue, the smell, and touch. Most of our life is spent enjoying these things. And we seek more and more of pleasures coming from these experiences. And our time is spent in taking care of it. And if there is any pain where we cannot enjoy with the tongue or with the eyes, then we are absolutely lost in the world. And we keep on doing things to avoid such pain. And we keep doing things to seek more pleasure from these senses. This is sense experience. This is sensual experience. And here Gurudev says this is the low levels of existence. There is so much more in each individual. We fail to see it in a whole lifetime. And there are lots of people living at this level of existence. So obviously, for such a person, the only relationship with the absolute is that's something else other than me. Oh, that's something much bigger and it's beyond me. And then he says, there is yet another class of men who have slightly grown up and have come to recognize that they are not only the bodies, but also creatures endowed with mind and intellect. Such men have psychological personalities in them. To them, man is not a perishable, ineffectual worm, but a sacred creature possessing almost godly powers, evident in the manifestations of mind and intellect. They review the achievements of science and poetry. They recognize the thinkers and discoverers. They take into account the total victory man has so far gained over the mighty nature. They come to the conclusion that man is a thinking creature who has a glory in mind which is not much inferior to God. Thus, to men of this degree of development, their relationship with the absolute is that they are a part of the whole. So slightly, shall we say, more mature or evolved kind of people recognize their existence through the mind and emotions. And they know that there is something more than simply sensual pleasure. And they derive a lot from their intellect and the mind. They enjoy that. Not necessarily everything is to do with the sense perception. And here they feel as though they are part of the divine plan, and there is a closer relationship with the absolute. Based on the above concept of the two classes of men, we have in our philosophy two views of life, two approaches to truth. The dualism of Sri Madhvacharya and the qualified monism of Sri Ramanujan. The former concludes that the Lord and his devotee would ever remain as two distinct entities, and the relationship of the devotee to the Lord is one of complete surrender and love and reverence. The supreme goal of man is in reaching his feet and eternally to remaining there ever in his seva. The latter, however, argues in a different line and arrives at the conclusion that the devotee is a part of the whole, the Lord. So you have two different schools of thought. Obviously, because of their experience being the way it is, they also approach the Lord this way. It is only in the daring declarations of the perfect philosophy, the philosophy that discusses the vital and final experience of man in the realms of the spiritual, Vedanta, that we find an unequivocally emphatic declaration that man in essence is God. To a student of dualism and qualified monism, this may appear fantastic, for the former views truth with reference to his body, while the latter views truth with a reference to his psychological personality. The perfect student of Vedanta has reached the master after discovering in his discrimination that neither his body nor his psychological personality can be sufficiently sacred and divine as to satisfy. He has come to the feeling that some power, subtler than the mind and the intellect, is playing hide and seek within him. And that is really the dynamic life center, which vitalizes the outer coatings of matter that come to envelop and hide it. The Guru endorses the disciples' vague and accidental conclusions. The Vedantic seer provides the disciple with arguments and convictions and leads him to the seat of life, the self, that lies within the seeker himself. When the disciple comes to understand the depth and significance of the Guru's mystical words and comes vitally and intensely to have a first-hand experience of the great grand truth that he gains perfect knowledge. So Gurudev here has spoken about dualism and qualified monism, and then finally comes to this, which is oneness. It speaks of that one alone that is existence, and that one is not different or apart from it. Huh? And here, when the student of Vedanta, he comes, this is a person who has recognized and experienced in life that there is much more to me as a person being than just the physical experiences or even the psychological personality. Even beyond the intellect, there is something. So he is seeking to know more. He is not satisfied with what he has. So he approaches this Vedantic guru, and he's kind of vague, and he has come to some conclusions, but as Gurudev points out, it is vague and accidental conclusion. He is not clear. He says, no, I think that is true, but I'm not sure how. That is when the seer provides him with the right information that yes, you are correct. But how? That is very important. You cannot say, I have a vague feeling. And that vague feeling could be anybody's under the psychological component. So here, he comes to understand the deep significance of the Guru's mystical words, because initially it seems like it's some mystical thing, it is beyond. But he recognizes that he gets this first-hand experience. So the three kinds of our relationship with truth have been beautifully commented upon in Ramayana, when Hanuman, the greatest devotee of Sri Ramchandra, explains his relationship with Sri Ramchandra. All the three schools of thought are there. That's the beauty. That's the conclusion, and that's the completeness. That is the fulfillment. Even that is not separate from me, is known, and it's described so beautifully. Hanumana says, "O Lord, at moments when I'm steeped in my body consciousness, I am thy slave. When I identify myself with my mind and intellect, that is as a jiva, I am a part of thee. And when I am in my swarupa, that is as the spirit, I am thyself." Thus, our relationship with the Absolute can be explained in three different ways according to our state of self-consciousness. There are moments when even the greatest seer is conscious of the sorrows of physical pain and even of the inclemencies of weather. At such moments, even a jnani falls prostrate at his feet and mentally seeks the mercy of the Lord. There are moments when he is conscious of some inner mental agitations or irresistible poetic outburst, when he recognizes within himself a might and power, almost a part of the Lord. It is only in those rare moments of bliss and peace and samadhi, when he has completely retired from the false outer covering of matter to the subtlest of the subtle spirit within him, that he recognizes and cries forth, Shivoham, Shivoham, I am that. The individual and the absolute constitute one perfect whole. It must be clear that all the three schools of thought in Hindu philosophy are not competing, mutually contradicting theories, but that each explains a necessary stage we must pass through in our slow pilgrimage to the peak of perfection. It is only intellectual pundits who quarrel and seek to establish one or the other declaration and fight over. In fact, the moment we step onto the path of spiritual sadhana, we shall realize that these three are three wayside inns for the spiritual pilgrims to rest and proceed ahead. Every pilgrim must first visit Madhva, from where he proceeds ahead to worship Ramanuja, and then alone can he reach the portals of Vedanta and recognize himself to be none other than Sri Shankara himself. So here we must recognize, that every school of thought The devotees create more problems than their gurus. The gurus know why we are doing what we are. But the devotees claim and compete with each other. Once you have entered the spiritual path, and for us, each one of us, as spiritual sadhana, we must realize this, that each one is at a different stage of evolution. There is no need to compare, there is no need to compete. No? Among sadhaks, among seekers, among devotees, constantly there will be this comment upon each other. Oh, you are closer to God. Oh, God listens to you. Oh, Guru listens to you. You are the most important person in the Guru's inner circle. All these dialogues are heard and they are so wasted, so much in vain. None of it should be paid attention to, and none of such loose talk must be made either. But one who's a true sadha will never make such comments. He is not comparing and judging how the other is doing. He is only focused on his guru and on himself. How far is he walking? He doesn't even seek to be close or far away from the guru. He seeks to be close to the truth. And that draws him closer to the guru. Nothing else. This we must recognize. Life and spiritual seeking. Now, Gurudev, having explained this, he goes around to say, because it's important for us to know whether Vedanta is relevant in day-to-day life, or is it something that we seek later in after retirement, or we have to go away to the caves to understand that. And we can't live a normal life. There are many people who come and ask, why should I study? Or I'm scared to start any classes now. I will have to take up sannyasa. I mean, nobody says that. And sannyasa is not easy. They think attending a few classes, attending Bhagavad Geeta classes will make them a sannyas. You start attending and some friends are there. Are you also going to take up sannyas now? That is the question. Because they have no clue. They have no understanding. Vedanta is about day-to-day life. It is about you and I and how we process our experiences and how do we seek that ultimate within this day-to-day relationship with the world. Unfortunately, not many people know this. So they think it is not relevant at all in our everyday life. So here we shall just see what Gurudev has to say. It is often misunderstood that the science of spirituality, Brahma Vidya, is only useful to attain the at present unknown state of self-realization and has no practical use in the day-to-day life of the common man of the world. The moment the word realization is mentioned, to the average man, his mind conjures up a picture of a sadhu sitting and meditating somewhere in the wilderness or wandering about without any worldly responsibility. Naturally, he comes to the conclusion that if this is the type of life that is recommended by the scriptures for self-realization, then it will not be fit in with the one that he has to play as a household. But is this really so? No doubt the ultimate goal that is set to be attained through Brahma Vidya is a state of liberation or realization. But this does not mean that there are no benefits to the seeker that the seeker can obtain en route to the goal, or that those benefits are of no use in the seeker's day-to-day life in the market. We must realize this. It is about our life, about who we are, and our relationship with the world. It is not something that we have to get from outside. Self-realization is not just an isolated, accidental experience that can happen in just about anybody's life, but it is the culmination of the life lived intelligently and made progressively more and more free from the chains of slavery imposed by nature on man due to man's imperfections and the consequent discontentment and unhappiness. This is very important here. Huh? Sorry to be stopping in between. What is very, very correct. It's not an isolated, accidental experience, this whole thing about self realization. It is a culmination of life intelligently lived. Only then one comes to recognize this. You have to use the intelligence every day, every moment, and you have to make it progressively free from chains imposed by the mind. Huh? So we have our own imperfections, plus, naturally society also imposes certain imperfections, and we assume that to be real. We say, oh, that's just normal. We are just being human. But that's not the case. If we think deeply, we have to change our imperfections and attain to that state of perfection. And there is that state. So, is this not the same greater degree of freedom and happiness the aim of all human beings? Whether he is a man in the marketplace or the sadhu in the Himalayan caves. In fact, the entire scheme of Brahma Vidya is to make man progressively happier and contented in his day-to-day life, so that the spiritual unfoldment will take place within the individual automatically. Self-realization is not a sudden superimposition of a special knowledge, but it is the culmination of the evolutionary process in man. Before we go into the details of how Brahma Vidya can be useful in day-to-day life, let us see as to what does this day-to-day life mean. All the activities that a human being undertakes in this world are done with the hope to obtain a greater amount of happiness and to achieve more freedom from unhappiness. At the individual level, enjoyment of these two factors in greater measures is called by the term a better life. And when applied to the humanity at large, it is called progress. Thus, the yardstick with which progress is measured is calibrated in terms of these two basic factors, namely dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. All the so-called milestones in the history of human progress are nothing but man's victory over a particular source of unhappiness or overcoming a limitation imposed on him by nature. A closer look at the so-called discovery starting from the making of the fire by the prehistoric man to the splitting of the atom, spaceflight, or the heart transplant by the modern man are nothing but milestones in man's search for flight from sorrows and rush for joy. Dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. Isn't this? In fact, we don't stop to think on these lines. We all know this. Individually also, I'm doing this only in my life. What am I doing? Dukkham comes, I don't want it. I'm doing something or the other to get rid of it. Sukham comes, I'm very happy. I want to maintain that for a long time. And the moment it leaves, I'm striving to get that sukham back in. This is how we are all acting. Collectively, we are doing this also. From the time fire was invented, as Gurudev says here, till the time the atomic energy was created. Why is all this happening? Everyone thinks doing this, sukha prapti. Doing this, dukkha nivritti. Heart transplant kar do, ye kar do, wo kar do. So each one in their own way is seeking the same. This exodus from discomfort and anxious rush for comfort, dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti, forms the basis for what is known in the modern parlance as the inordinate demand for a higher standard of living. Pursuit of these two objectives at the collective level is being undertaken by the government of all nations. The politicians, economists, and the scientists are all trying their best to rearrange the pattern of the outer world in an attempt to provide these elimination of sorrow and provisions for happiness. But the sad fact remains that no established pattern in the outer world of things and beings can remain steadily unchanged in any prearranged condition for any length of time. Added to this, to find a suitable arrangement of the outer world to meet the demands of the innumerable variety of human beings is also found to be impossible. Therefore, in spite of all the best efforts at planning, etc., by the secular governments and material scientists, man's life remains riddled with discomforts and sorrows, poverty and strife. Imagine at home only. We try to arrange a system, So morning this will be done, afternoon this will be done, evening all this will be taken care of. So, okay, it is working. Somehow manage one system that works and suits all the family members, and something happens. One of them is not well, one of them has to go abroad, everything changes. Now again bringing about a system. We are collectively doing this all the time. And then we realize that one's food habits have changed, and the timings of that person has changed. So when the maid will come, when the cooking can happen, when food will be supplied, how it will be. Timings keep changing. So no pattern sticks for a long time. You have to keep on rearranging these patterns. If this is happening in the family, imagine every family put together forms a society. And how is society going to be managed with pre-arranged systems like this? That's why every time a 5-year plan, the next 2 years we are planning to do this. Then something happens. Then something else has to be taken care of. Then there is a continuously this is happening. We are striving and striving and striving. You must understand it is not external to us. Collective efforts also. So we find that the collective efforts made by man through the various groups, organizations, and governments, etc., have not succeeded in finding a stable method to satisfy these two basic urges in man. And therefore, the wars and revolutions still continue. At the individual level, each man by himself is also putting the best efforts to achieve higher standards of living. But these efforts are so directed now that at its best, perhaps, it can sometimes improve his own standard of living a little, and that too at the cost of sorrow to many. Imagine at the individual level, this is like this. What happens at the collective level? That's why you have so many groups, no? Each one is actively involved for its own cause. The moment there is a development, suppose a road building has to happen, and if it is coming in the way of residents, then they are unhappy. In the name of development, some trees have to be cut. So then for the development of some people, the environment is sacrificed, and the environment-friendly activists will come to. For sake of development, some slums have to be removed. Then because they are evacuated from their place, then human rights activists come in. So every time one sect of human beings are tired and are uncomfortable with whatever is considered as development. So his own one lot of people, it's good. It helps, but it comes with a cost. Sorrow to many. This is the kind of development we see the world over, isn't it? The reason for this can easily be traced to man's excessive preoccupation with his body and senses. All the human effort and ingenuity are spent in creating more and more avenues for sense enjoyments. This is the reason why even the so-called successful men, who according to the material standards have achieved a high standard of living, are found to lead a life of unhappiness, sorrow, anxiety, and tension. The joy, happiness, and contentment in one's life and the ability to spread the same to others around through love, kindness, and other noble qualities form the basis for a higher standard of material comforts, no doubt, can provide a greater degree of freedom to man from the limitations imposed by nature. But in the process of acquiring these, man becomes a slave to his own selfish mind and senses, which can ultimately lead man to his own doom. This entire paragraph is self explanatory, isn't it? With a little analytical thinking and reflection, it can be seen that the vital factor which determines both the standards of one's life and living are the mind intellect equipment in oneself. Success in life does not depend exclusively upon the proficiency of the individual, but to a great extent, it is determined by the efficiency with which the individual can translate his proficiency into the field of his activity. To have such an efficiency, the prime requirement is that the M and I equipment must be able to judge the world of objects and situations correctly and then come to the right conclusion. To the misguided man who has mistaken that the greater the indulgence in sense pleasures, the higher his standard of living. A correct judgment of the world is difficult, since he looks at the world in terms of his ideas of pleasure and pain, raga dvesha. The greater the efforts put in to satisfy the demands of the senses, the stronger the chains of slavery of the M and I to the senses, and greater the loss of discrimination. Thus, we can see the most of his failures in life are not due to the lack of proficiency or opportunities in life, but due to the lack of efficiency of the mind and intellect when facing new challenges thrown up by the world of objects and situations. This is why it is important to understand this mind and intellect equipment. Very, very important. At the individual level, if one is given to sensual pleasures and his thinking that the more happiness derived from this is a greater standard of living, such a person, if suppose power and wealth comes to him, imagine the kind of disaster he can cause in society. And usually they are the problem in society. No? And then people have to pay the consequences of such narrow-mindedness of such people. They think that sensual pleasure is the answer to everything. So they are constantly indulging in that. And suppose they have the power and the wealth, they can command so many things in society. People have to pay the consequences. They are a curse, actually. So this is important. We must realize what kind of society do we want? Not nobler values to be put in, or people should be acting selfishly. So this question of values comes up. What is required so that everyone can be happy for everyone's well-being? If success in life thus depends on the efficiency of the M&I equipment, the happiness in life depends on the quality and texture of the same M&I equipment. It is the noble qualities of the head and the heart that constitute a happy life for any individual when he deals with the world of beings and emotions. No man can live a happy life in society unless he has the capacity to generate within himself the noble qualities of love, kindness, cheerfulness, optimism, and integrity, and also the large heartedness to share his material prosperity with others around. Thus, we can find that success and happiness in life will ultimately depend upon the condition and quality of the mind and intellect equipment of the individual. Here, thus, let us take a look at as to why man never realizes the simple truth and why he does not turn his attention more and more towards his M&I equipment. What makes man an abject slave to his senses and prompts him to indulge in sense pleasures till his very total destruction? Why the slavish attachment to the sense objects? Why, which is the source of all his inefficiencies and so on? Though we may know this, that the mind and intellect have to be polished and we have to have proper perception of everything through the mind and intellect, yet very often we cannot do this. Especially a person given to sensual pleasures finds it very difficult to control his mind. Mind as in his emotions, passions. And his intellect is as good as zeal. His intellect worships to provide for these passions. Unfortunately, this is the way it happens. And when such a person becomes powerful, he is like the Ravana. But one with mind and intellect under his control, he is the only one who can contribute to society and generate this kind of peace and happiness around to all. Now, why doesn't it happen? This is also a subject matter to be investigated, because we must go to the depth of it, isn't it? The rishis, after analyzing the universal problem, this is a universal problem. It has nothing to do with individuals or religion or anything. The rishis, after analyzing this universal problem, found out that it is, as it should be, the case with the ignorant man. The root of the problem is in the mistaken idea of man that happiness is in the objects. But a little analysis will show that happiness is not in the objects, but is only in the condition of one's own mind and intellect. Thus, when the M&I are quiet and tranquil, we feel happy. And when they are agitated, we feel unhappy. The quieter the mind, the happier the person. To the average man, whose M&I are slaves to the senses, satisfying the demands of the senses is the only known method to quieten the M&I, even though this quiet is only for a fleeting moment. Thus, it can be seen that the sincere spiritual seeker attains in larger quantities and for longer duration. The ordinary man is also trying to reach through his sense indulgences and suffers all its drastic consequences. When you follow the spiritual path, this happiness and satisfaction lasts longer, for a longer duration, and it is also very deep. Whereas the man indulging in sensual pleasures and giving way to his passions and emotions, he is also enjoying peace, no doubt, but it is very limited and it is on a very superficial level. So he is always dissatisfied. He never gains that deep satisfaction within himself. The remedy suggested by the spiritual masters is to free the M&I from the slavery of the senses, which alone can improve the quality of the M&I and thus assure man a happy and successful life in this world. This profound technique is called Brahma Vidya. They, in their wisdom, found out that the M&I can get themselves attached to an object only so long as they feel that the objects have the following three qualities: the belief in the reality of the objects, the joy contents of the objects, and the permanency or repeated availability of the same joy out of them at all occasions. Thus, it becomes clear that if man can be re-educated, that all the three qualities that he is looking for in the objects of the world are not in them, but the same are available in the self within himself. Then only will he stop his fruitless indulgence in sense objects. The process by which man is made to redirect his search within himself is known as spiritual science, Brahma Vidya. It can thus be clearly seen that even though the ultimate goal is self-realization, in the process of achieving the same, man comes to refine and improve the efficiency of his M&I equipment, which alone can guarantee the success and happiness in his life. So beautifully, Gurudev has connected the reason for Brahma Vidya. Why is the need? And why this Vidya, this knowledge alone, will relieve you from all the inadequacies of life, will give you much more permanent fulfillment and happiness. So in the process, it is also clearing the M&I, polishing it to gain deeper and enhance every experience that we go through everyday life. So you see, this knowledge is important. As we are seeking that ultimate goal, what happens? Our everyday experience becomes profound, deeper. We live life with so much richness of experience, and every experience is enhanced. It is properly understood. We live with understanding and maturity and sensitivity to others. So in all of this, there comes kindness. There is no more grabbing. There is no more cheating. There is no more greed. And that is so beautiful, because that is something that can give us lasting peace, isn't it? So now, if this Brahma Vidya is what is to be sought and why it has to be sought is also being told, we will see now. Look at the spiritual student and the qualifications for the student. Just as various branches of objective knowledge, similar to physics, chemistry, etc., are the themes of our different studies, there is yet another branch of knowledge seeking the understanding of the subject, which is Brahma Vidya, the science of Brahma. Brahma Vidya teaches us of that which is the goal of all other sciences. See, all the sciences, where does it take you? To get Dukkha Nivritti and Sukha Prapti. Everyone is striving in their own. But if we understand that Brahma Vidya you see, then you get answers to all of these. We are here to seek the source of all life, the one reality. We shall be only satisfied with the truth from which the world of our experiences have risen up, and which they exist, and into which our experiences of the life from moment to moment get merged. We are seeking the goal, the one single goal, which can explain not only the poverty of the poor, but also the wealth of the rich and the might of the powerful. It explains not merely the working of the senses and emotions, but also the total experience of life. It explains not merely the physical body and the forms we see around us, but also how the mind works and with what potency it functions. Thus, we are trying to delve deeper and deeper into the very source of life in us. From the gross external world, we have to slowly and carefully seek deeper into the center in us, which is the subtle seed of truth. So it is very beautiful. The single goal, when we seek this, we also, what we are doing is seeking the total experience of life. Not only explains the physical body, but everything, totality, life in its totality is experienced. So carefully, we must seek deeper meaning. Truth is not a factor thrust upon us. It is through logical reasoning and diligent analysis of the values of the external world and its conditions that we slowly get away from the false sense objects, step by step, and ultimately reach the real. Generally, there is the feeling that the spiritual life of God seeking is meant for the persons who are physically deformed or mentally hysterical, hmm, or intellectually abnormal, or for those persons who in life are ridden with disappointments and disastrous calamities. The general impression is that when one fails in life, one runs frantically to religion. There is a widespread belief that religion is an open door for the scums of society. This is absurd. Religion is not for the unworthy, the unintelligent, or the abnormal. Religion is for the most level headed and balanced men, spiritually, psychologically, and physically sound persons. This is a very important point made here. Usually, when we begin to walk on the spiritual path, what do people say? Hey, what is your problem in life? Why are you going for satsang and all? You should be enjoying life. Huh? Saturday night and you're going for satsang. You should be at a party. You should be, enjoying with friends. Huh? Uh, Go out, enjoy the weekend. Because there is so much pressure no, on everybody to go out and do something in the weekend. Because what happens from Monday to Friday? Drudgery of work. Everyone is Monday morning blues, everyone is suffering, isn't it? The common phrase. No, Monday, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college. What have we made out of our lives? Unfortunate. Collectively, we have come to believe these things. This is the way we are looking. That means 5 days of your life is wasted in sorrow. You're waiting for that weekend. And that weekend, what happens? There is so much competition. These days, even vacations have become stressful. Why? Which hotel you went to? Oh, they went to that 5 star. I only booked in 3 star. Then there is comparison. And now we have to show off as the moment I've gone and visited this temple or tourist place, I have to share. I'm going there for that selfie and I am not going to see the temple and get lost and absorbed in its energies. First thing I have to do is, can I take a picture of it? Whatever I'm eating, I have to take a picture of it. It will be one idli sambar only. But that idli has to be posted for everybody to see that I was sitting and eating this idli in this so and so place, so that the others can get jealous and say, next time I go there, I also want to be. This kind of herd mentality. Huh? But people say that is normal. So when an intelligent person seeks to question about this, hey, is this the way? Is this all life about? And he goes to satsang, people say, you're abnormal. Why are you going to do all this? What is there more than this? This is what we have to enjoy. God made this world for us to enjoy. So he is thought of to be mentally unstable. No, he's got a lot of problems in life. He's been a failure, not a success. So he's gone seeking God. This is what is thought. But this is not the truth. Religion is meant very, very emphatically, Gurudev states. What does he say? It is for the most level headed person because you are seeking the truth of your own being. You have to be intelligent. You have to be very well balanced. What is balance? Between the mind and the intellect. You cannot be driven by your passions and your animalistic nature. You have to have that under control. And you have to be very balanced spiritually, psychologically, and physically. Physically sound. When you're very old and the body is not able to sit, the body can't hear much, the body cannot sit and meditate, that is not the time to go to seek spiritual knowledge. In fact, that time you go to the hospital, go for other therapies and take care of that. That is the least time. But common perception is what? Spiritual knowledge, religion is for old people. Now you're old, Papa, you're retired, go for satsang. Mother, what you have to do, all children are grown up and gone. Now you go for satsang. This is what they are told. And at that time, the mind is not available at all. full of chinta about what is happening in the world, because that is the way we have trained our mind. How can it sit for deep contemplation on the truth? This requires a very intelligent and stable and balanced mind, understand. Vedanta Vichara is not for all. As in every branch of study, the student of Brahma Vidya must also have certain preliminary qualifications if he is to enter the hall of Vedanta. This is nothing new, but when it's put under the grave term, the four qualifications for a student, sadhana chatushtaya, we are apt to feel teased and uncomfortable. On a little closer analysis, we shall find that all of us have already these qualifications. There are four qualifications which Gurudev says, but when we say sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari, when we give this word, use the terms, they say, Ababa, what is that? I don't know. It is all in Sanskritam. It is beyond me. I will not get into this now. But when we understand what the terms are, we all have it in our everyday life already. Let us see what this is. The four qualifications necessary are a capacity to discriminate, viveka, the real from the unreal, the true from the false, the object from the shadow. And who has not got this? We may not have it playing in the higher realms of thought, but we all have this faculty of discrimination. We are, as members of a cultured society, young men who can apply our power of discrimination in every aspect of life. Viveka is nothing but discrimination. We may not apply it to truth and the secrets of the universe and all of that, but definitely everyday life we are applying it. Even whether I should cross the road or not, I'm checking, is there any traffic coming? And then I decide whether I should buy now or sell now, share market. We are using our discernment, discrimination. You are without the sense of discrimination, then you are lost. Difficult is your life. Some people have the sense, yet completely lost in the mobile phone, cross the road without checking. They are a disaster onto themselves as well as the others. One has to be careful. So, okay, Viveka Buddhi. Then we shall just, in short, go to Vairagyam. What is detachment? The second one. Detachment or Vairagya is that smartness of the mind which enables us to get detached from the false, painful things. Do not be frightened away by some false notions about Vairagya. Who among us has not got Vairagya? When the intellect has come to a sure understanding and is consequently fully aware that a given thing is but a shadow and a valueless, paltry nothing, the mind naturally gets detached from it. Because the moment you say Vairagyam, no, people don't like the word. Dispassion, detachment. No. Don't like all these rishis. No, they always tell us all this is not good. We can't handle it. But really, that is the intelligent way of living. Shouldn't you know, once you know that something is going to give me pain, will you follow it? You will give it up, isn't it? That's all is Vairagyam. You have to understand what is it that is false? What is it that is painful in the end? Go away from it. Intelligently work your way. So that's why Gurudev says we all have Vairagyam. And we must understand the real and the object or the shadow. You are walking on the road. If your shadow falls on the gutter, are you bothered about it? Or your shadow, a vehicle has just passed and crossed over your shadow. Do you cry in pain? You don't, obviously. Because you know, I am not hurt. I did not get into the gutter. My shadow fell. Chalega. This is the discrimination, and Vairagyam will get out of that. What is shadow and what is me? Very often in life, we are crying over the shadow. This we are not realizing. This understanding has to come about. Intellectual conviction of the desirability of things are prerequisites absolutely necessary for the mental attainments for those. For example, if in a dream you get married to a lovely person, on waking up, you cannot maintain your love or attachment for that person. The moment you are awake, you realize the falsehood of the dream love. And so your mind rolls off from the person of the dream. The detachment gained as a result of the knowledge of the untrue of the object is Vairagya. And he who has Vairagya is a fit student of Vedanta. Obviously, in a dream, I am dreaming of this beloved. Huh? When I wake up, I don't have to bother about, because I realize, oh, that was such a dream. I wanted that and I was dreaming. Not real. In the dream, I was hungry, but I don't get up and start eating because I'm not hungry now. I dreamt that. You realize the difference between the two. And automatically, what happens? It's a dream. I don't have to bother. Your concern is gone, isn't it? That is Vairagya, and we should realize this. So today we will stop here. We have read about Vivekam and Vairagya. The next class we shall see the other necessary qualification of the mind and the intellect. Just go through, read through this, and give it a deeper thought and apply it to your own life and experience. Only then we absorb these teachings. So here for today, we will conclude here till we meet in the next class. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.